Have you ever wondered whether an ordinary-looking 1996 Roosevelt dime hiding in your pocket change could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? Most people spend these tiny silver-colored coins without a second thought, yet collectors know that certain examples with exceptional quality or rare mint errors can command prices far beyond their 10-cent face value. Before you spend another dime, take a closer look because one small detail could make all the difference. The Roosevelt dime has been one of the most familiar coins in American commerce for generations, and the 1996 Roosevelt dime continues the tradition as one of the millions of coins struck for everyday circulation. Although most examples are worth only their face value after years of wear, a small percentage stand apart because of their outstanding condition, remarkable strike quality, or genuine mint errors that transform an ordinary circulation coin into an object eagerly sought by collectors. Understanding the history, production, rarity, grading, and error possibilities of the 1996 Roosevelt dime helps explain why values can range from only 10 cents to hundreds or even thousands of dollars under the right circumstances. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt following his death in 1945. Roosevelt was admired for guiding the United States through the Great Depression and much of the Second World War. He also became closely associated with the fight against polio through his support of the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, better known as the March of Dimes. Because of this connection, replacing the Mercury dime with Roosevelt's portrait seemed both meaningful and appropriate. The obverse of the coin features Roosevelt facing left with the word Liberty along the left side, the national motto "In God We Trust" below the portrait, and the date 1996 positioned to the lower right. Just above the date appears the D Mint mark, indicating that the coin was produced at the Denver Mint. On the reverse, a torch symbolizes liberty, an olive branch represents peace, and an oak branch stands for strength and independence. Around the outer edge appears United States of America, with one dime at the bottom and the motto E Pluribus Unum across the center. The Denver Mint has played an important role in American coinage since the early 20th century. By 1996 it had become one of the nation's busiest coin-producing facilities, manufacturing billions of coins each year for commerce. The overwhelming majority of these dimes were produced to meet the needs of banks, businesses, and consumers rather than collectors. Speed and efficiency were priorities, but despite advanced quality control, no minting operation is completely free from occasional mistakes. The 1996 Roosevelt dime was struck on a copper core surrounded by outer layers of copper and nickel. This clad composition had been used since 1965 after the rising value of silver forced the United States Mint to eliminate silver from circulating dimes. The coin weighs approximately 2.268 grams, measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter, and has a reeded edge designed both for appearance and as a historical anti-counterfeiting measure. Millions upon millions of these coins entered circulation almost immediately after striking. They traveled through banks, vending machines, grocery stores, gas stations, restaurants, laundromats, and countless other places. Most became scratched, worn, discolored, and damaged through everyday use. Every exchange left another small mark on the surface until the once brilliant mint luster gradually disappeared. Because so many examples circulated for decades, the average 1996 Roosevelt dime today usually carries only modest value. A heavily worn example is generally worth only 10 cents because collectors have no difficulty finding circulated pieces. However, the story changes dramatically when a coin survives in nearly perfect condition. Collectors carefully examine factors such as strike sharpness, original luster, contact marks, eye appeal, and preservation. A coin that escaped circulation entirely may receive a mint state grade from professional grading services. The higher the numerical grade, the rarer the coin becomes because tiny imperfections separate one grade from another. For many modern coins, the difference between MS64 and MS68 may appear insignificant to the casual observer, yet collectors recognize that the highest grades become increasingly scarce. As populations decrease, competition among registry set collectors often drives prices significantly higher. A beautifully preserved 1996 Roosevelt dime certified at an elite grade may sell for many times more than an ordinary uncirculated example simply because so few survive at that level. One important characteristic affecting value is the quality of the strike. During production, immense pressure forces the dies into blank planchets, transferring every detail of the design. Fresh dies generally create crisp details, while worn dies produce softer features. Collectors often seek coins displaying fully defined design elements because they reflect superior striking conditions. Another important consideration is original mint luster. Freshly struck coins display brilliant cartwheel effects as light moves across the surface. Circulation gradually destroys this appearance. Coins retaining complete original luster attract greater collector interest than those showing dull or impaired surfaces. Natural toning also influences desirability. While many circulated dimes develop ordinary gray coloration, some uncirculated pieces stored under ideal conditions acquire beautiful shades of gold, blue, violet, magenta, or green. Attractive natural toning can increase collector demand considerably, whereas unattractive discoloration may reduce value. Although condition alone explains many valuable sales, mint errors often generate the greatest excitement among collectors. Genuine mint errors occur during the manufacturing process rather than after the coin leaves the mint. These mistakes are relatively uncommon because quality control removes many defective pieces before distribution. One popular category involves off-center strikes. If the planchet fails to align properly between the dies, part of the design may be missing while the remaining portion appears shifted toward one edge. The amount of displacement largely determines desirability. Slight off-center examples may command modest premiums, while dramatic errors retaining a visible date and mint mark can become highly valuable. Broad strike errors occur when the retaining collar fails during striking. Without the collar confining the metal, the coin expands beyond its normal diameter while losing its reeded edge. These unusual pieces are immediately recognizable because they appear larger and flatter than standard dimes. A clipped planchet error originates before striking. During blank production, the punching process occasionally overlaps an already punched hole, leaving a curved section missing from the future coin. Once struck, the missing portion remains visible, creating an unusual appearance eagerly collected by error specialists. Die cracks represent another collectible variety. Repeated striking gradually weakens the dies until small fractures develop. Metal flows into these cracks during striking, creating raised lines on the finished coin. Minor die cracks usually command modest premiums, while extensive cracks or retained die breaks often attract stronger collector interest. Die chips occur when tiny fragments break away from the die surface. The missing area becomes a raised lump on every coin subsequently struck. Depending upon size and location, die chips may become recognized collectible varieties. Filled die errors result when grease or debris blocks recessed portions of the die. Because metal cannot fully enter these areas during striking, certain letters, numbers, or design features appear weak or missing. Collectors distinguish genuine filled die errors from ordinary ones through careful examination. Double strikes create especially dramatic collectibles. After the first strike, the coin fails to eject properly before receiving another impression. Depending upon movement between strikes, portions of the design may overlap or appear in two different positions. Strike-through errors occur when foreign material such as grease, cloth fibers, or metal fragments becomes trapped between the die and planchet. The object leaves an impression on the coin before being removed. Each strike-through error is unique, making these fascinating additions to specialized collections. Wrong planchet errors rank among the most valuable possibilities. If a dime design is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, the resulting coin differs in weight, diameter, and sometimes color. Such mistakes are rare because modern mint quality control detects most mismatched planchets before release. Misaligned die errors happen when one die shifts slightly from its intended position. The resulting design appears normal on one side while showing noticeable displacement on the other. Strong examples are especially popular among collectors interested in striking abnormalities. Die deterioration can also produce unusual visual effects. As dies wear from extensive use, lettering may become thicker, details softer, and surfaces rougher. Although these are generally less valuable than dramatic mint errors, some collectors appreciate them as evidence of the minting process. Occasionally, collectors search for doubled dies. Unlike ordinary machine doubling, a true doubled die originates during die creation itself. Every coin struck from that die displays the same doubling. Significant doubled dies often become famous because they are genuine varieties rather than random production defects.
Machine doubling should not be confused with a doubled die.
Machine doubling results from slight die movement during striking and typically reduces rather than increases design thickness. Most examples carry little additional value despite frequently being mistaken for rarer doubled die varieties.
Authentication remains extremely important because damaged coins are often misidentified as mint errors.
Scratches, dents, environmental corrosion, heat damage, vice damage, and other forms of post-mint alteration may imitate genuine production mistakes. Experienced collectors rely upon professional grading services to confirm authenticity before paying significant premiums. Professional grading companies evaluate coins for authenticity, grade, surface preservation, originality, and in the case of mint errors, verify the exact nature of the production mistake. Certified examples generally command greater confidence in the marketplace because buyers know an independent expert has examined the coin. Auction records occasionally demonstrate how dramatically values can increase for exceptional examples. While ordinary circulated coins remain worth only face value, superb certified coins with extraordinary preservation or significant mint errors sometimes achieve prices reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Such results reflect rarity, collector demand, and competition rather than the intrinsic metal value of the coin itself. Collectors often spend years searching rolls obtained from banks hoping to discover overlooked treasures. Roll searching remains popular because modern circulation occasionally still yields surprisingly well-preserved coins or genuine mint errors overlooked by previous owners. Although most searches produce only common examples, the possibility of finding something unusual keeps enthusiasts motivated. Storage plays a crucial role in preserving value. Coins placed loosely in jars or drawers quickly accumulate scratches and contact marks. Those stored carefully in protective holders immediately after leaving circulation stand a much better chance of retaining their original surfaces and achieving higher grades in the future. Market demand also influences value. Registry-set competition encourages collectors to seek the finest certified examples available. As more collectors compete for the same limited number of elite coins, prices naturally increase. Even if millions of coins were originally produced, only a tiny fraction may survive in pristine condition decades later. The 1996 D. Roosevelt dime reminds collectors that rarity is not determined solely by mintage figures. Preservation, striking quality, originality, and genuine mint errors all combine to create scarcity where it truly matters. An ordinary circulated example may remain worth only 10 cents, while an extraordinary specimen possessing outstanding eye appeal or a verified production error can become a prized collectible worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. For anyone examining pocket change, the lesson is simple. Never judge a coin solely by its face value. Look closely at the date, mint mark, overall condition, and any unusual characteristics that might indicate a genuine mint error. Most 1996 D. Roosevelt dimes will continue serving as ordinary 10-cent pieces, but every so often one survives in remarkable condition or emerges with a fascinating production mistake that transforms it into a coin worthy of serious collector attention and an impressive market premium. You are looking at one of the most misunderstood small coins in American circulation history, a tiny 10-cent piece that millions of people overlook every single day, yet in rare situations, it can turn from pocket change into something collectors actively search for. And that coin is the 1999 D. Roosevelt dime struck in Denver, a coin that still carries the face of liberty and American heritage, but also hides small details that sometimes make it far more valuable than anyone expects. This story begins not with treasure, but with ordinary change. Imagine holding a handful of coins from a store, from a vending machine, or from a parking meter, and among them is a small silver gray dime dated 1999 with a small D mint mark. Most people would never think twice about it. It is 10 cents. It buys almost nothing on its own. Yet in the world of coin collecting, even something this small can become a subject of serious attention when condition, strike quality, minting variation, and error production come into play. The Roosevelt dime series itself began in 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a leader associated with the New Deal and the founding of the March of Dimes organization. The coin replaced the Mercury dime and was designed by John R. Sinek. The obverse shows Roosevelt's portrait, while the reverse displays a torch symbolizing liberty, flanked by olive and oak branches representing peace and strength. By 1999, this design had already been in circulation for more than 5 decades, becoming one of the most commonly used coins in the United States monetary system. The 1999 D. Roosevelt dime was struck at the Denver Mint in massive quantities. This was not a rare production year.
In fact, tens of millions of these coins entered circulation.
Most of them are still worth exactly 10 cents today.
They are found in cash registers, jars, drawers, and wallets across America.
From a purely economic perspective, there is nothing special about the majority of these coins. However, coin value is not only about quantity. It is also about condition, scarcity within condition, and errors that occurred during minting.
This is where the story becomes interesting.
While the average 1999 D dime is common, a small fraction of them may carry characteristics that significantly increase their value. In normal circulated condition, a 1999 D Roosevelt dime is worth face value, 10 cents. Even in lightly circulated condition, it usually does not exceed its face value in the marketplace. But when preserved in mint state condition, especially graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services, the value can increase to a few dollars, sometimes more depending on eye appeal and strike quality. Coins that are exceptionally well struck, with strong luster and no visible marks, can attract collectors who specialize in modern Roosevelt dimes. But the real excitement in numismatics comes from mint errors, and the 1999 D dime has several possible categories of errors that collectors watch for carefully. One of the most discussed possibilities is the doubled die error. This occurs when the coin die is misaligned during the hubbing process, causing visible doubling in letters or design elements. If a 1999 D dime shows strong and verified doubling on the date or inscriptions such as Liberty or In God We Trust, it can increase interest significantly, although not all doubling is valuable.
Machine doubling, which is common, usually does not add value. Another potential error is the off-center strike.
This happens when the coin blank is not properly aligned during striking, resulting in part of the design missing. Depending on how dramatic the off-center strike is, and whether the date remains visible, such coins can be worth anywhere from a small premium to significantly higher collector value.
Broad strike errors are another possibility.
In this case, the coin is struck without the retaining collar that normally keeps its shape uniform.
The result is a slightly larger, flatter coin with a distorted rim.
Collectors often find these interesting because they clearly show a minting mistake that escaped quality control. There are also clipped planchet errors, where part of the metal blank is missing due to improper cutting during production. These can appear as curved or straight clips on the edge of the dime. While not extremely rare, well-defined clips on a clearly dated coin can still bring a noticeable premium. Another category sometimes discussed is the struck-through error, which occurs when foreign material such as grease, cloth, or metal shavings interfere with the strike, leaving parts of the design missing or faded. These errors can make a coin visually unique, and collectors often pay attention when the missing detail affects important areas like Roosevelt's face or the torch on the reverse. Despite these possibilities, it is important to understand the reality of the 1999 D. Roosevelt dime market. The vast majority of coins do not contain significant errors. They were produced in a highly controlled modern minting environment with strict quality standards. This means that while errors exist, they are not common enough to turn the entire coin issue into a rare collectible series. Still, collectors remain interested because even modern coins can surprise people. A dime found in circulation today might not seem important, but if it turns out to be in exceptional condition or contains a verified mint error, it can become part of a growing segment of modern coin collecting where small value coins become high-interest items.
The concept of value in coins is not fixed. It is shaped by demand, rarity, and condition.
For the 1999 D. Roosevelt dime, demand is generally low for circulated examples because they are still widely available. But demand increases sharply for high-grade certified coins or unusual mint errors. This is where market value begins to separate from face value. In auctions and collector markets, certified mint state examples of 1999 D dimes might sell for a few dollars to around $20 depending on grade and eye appeal. Rare error examples, if confirmed and visually dramatic, can reach higher values, sometimes significantly more, but such cases are not typical. Most online claims of extremely high values for common dimes are exaggerated or not supported by grading authority verification. The Denver Mint in 1999 was operating with modern high-speed production equipment.
Coins were struck in massive quantities for circulation needs across the United States economy. Because of this, strike consistency was generally strong, and most coins show uniform appearance. However, even in modern production, small imperfections occur, and that is where collectors find opportunities. One of the most important aspects of understanding this coin is grading. Professional coin grading services evaluate condition based on luster, strike quality, surface marks, and overall preservation. A coin that has never been in circulation, known as mint state, is far more valuable than one that has been heavily used. Even a slight difference in grade can change value expectations, especially in modern coins where small differences matter. Another factor is eye appeal. Two coins with the same grade may have different market values if one has stronger luster or cleaner surfaces. Collectors often prefer coins that look visually appealing even if they are technically similar in grade. The Roosevelt Dimes series continues to be collected because of its long history and consistent design. For many collectors, assembling complete date sets including mint marks is a popular goal. The 1999 D dime is a required piece in such collections, which gives it consistent baseline demand even though it is not rare. From a historical perspective, this coin represents the late 20th century United States economy, a time of strong production, high circulation demand, and modernized minting processes. It is a small artifact of everyday American commerce at the end of the millennium. In circulation today, most people will still find these coins mixed with newer and older dimes. They continue to function as legal tender and remain part of everyday transactions, even if their individual purchasing power is very limited. The idea that a simple dime could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars is mostly tied to misunderstanding. Only very specific and verified mint errors, combined with strong collector demand, can push values into higher ranges. Otherwise, the coin remains what it was intended to be, 10 cents of currency. But even so, the fascination remains strong. Because every coin has the potential, however small, to be something unusual. A misaligned strike, a double detail, a clipped edge, or an exceptionally preserved surface can change how collectors view it. And that is why the 1999 D Roosevelt dime continues to be discussed in the coin collecting world. Not because it is rare, but because it represents possibility. The possibility that something ordinary still might hold something unexpected inside it. In the end, its value is a combination of reality and perception. In everyday use, it is 10 cents. In the collector market, it can be a few dollars or more depending on condition and verified error status. And in the imagination of collectors, it remains part of a larger treasure hunt hidden inside everyday pocket change. That is the true story of the 1999 D Roosevelt dime, a coin of liberty, circulation, and quiet potential, still passing through hands every day, still overlooked, and still waiting for the rare moment when it becomes something more than just another dime. The reality of modern coin collecting becomes even more interesting when you start attaching real-world value ranges to the kinds of minting errors discussed earlier. Because while most people assume that any mistake automatically equals high value, the collector market does not work that way. It is structured, selective, and highly dependent on visibility, authentication, and demand. Take for example a simple die crack on a 2000 D Roosevelt dime. A die crack appears when the metal die used to strike coins develops a small fracture, which then transfers a raised line onto the coins it produces. In most cases, these coins sell for only a small premium, often just a few dollars at most, depending on how dramatic the crack appears. A minor crack that barely crosses the surface might not even be worth separating from circulation coins at all. But a bold, clearly visible crack running through major design elements can sometimes attract more attention from variety collectors. Now consider the clipped planchet error again, but in more realistic market terms. A small clip affecting only a tiny portion of the dime might sell in the range of a few dollars to perhaps $10 or $15 depending on eye appeal and preservation. If the clip is larger and more visually dramatic, especially one that clearly shows the missing metal effect, the value can rise further, sometimes reaching $20, $30, or more in specialized collector markets. However, even then, these are not life-changing values. They are modest collectibles, not hidden treasure jackpots. Broad strike errors, which visually stand out more, often perform slightly better in the market simply because they are easier to recognize and more visually dramatic.
A well-centered but expanded broadstrike 2000D dime in nice condition might typically sell anywhere from $10 to $50 depending on how extreme the distortion is and whether the coin has been certified by a grading service. Again, condition plays a major role. A damaged broadstrike loses much of its appeal, while a clean, lustrous example becomes much more desirable. Off-center strikes are where values begin to vary more widely. A slight off-center strike of maybe 5 to 10% with full date visibility may only bring a small premium, often under $20. But once the strike becomes more dramatic, say 20, 30, or even more off-center while still retaining the date and mint mark, collectors begin to treat it as a stronger error type. These can reach $50 or more depending on eye appeal. Extremely dramatic off-center strikes, especially those that are visually striking but still identifiable, can sometimes push higher in niche auctions, but they remain relatively rare compared to the number of coins produced. Die deterioration errors and minor doubling effects are generally on the lower end of the value spectrum. In modern Roosevelt dimes like the 2000D, what people sometimes call doubling is often actually machine doubling or die wear, not true doubled die varieties. These usually carry little to no premium unless they are part of a known and documented variety listing. Most examples remain face value or slightly above it. This is where an important correction in understanding must be made. The internet often amplifies expectations, suggesting that modern coins like the 2000D dime are secretly worth huge amounts. In reality, professional numismatic markets do not support those claims for normal circulated examples or minor errors. The true value ceiling is determined by rarity, certification, and collector demand, not speculation. However, even with realistic expectations, the 2000D Roosevelt dime still plays an important role in modern collecting culture. It represents accessibility. Unlike ancient coins or silver rarities, this is a coin anyone can find. It still appears in circulation, still passes through hands every day, and still sits unnoticed in jars, drawers, and pockets. That accessibility keeps the search alive. The Denver Mint's production system in 2000 was part of a highly refined industrial process. By this time, coin manufacturing had become almost entirely automated, with strict quality control systems in place. Yet despite all of this, the system still allowed occasional variations to pass through. That is not a failure of technology but a reflection of the reality of mass production at scale. When billions of objects are produced, perfection is statistical, not absolute. From a historical standpoint, the 2000D Roosevelt dime sits in an interesting transitional era. It is modern enough that it contains no precious metal content, yet old enough that collectors are beginning to evaluate it not just as currency but as part of a broader numismatic dataset. Over time, coins like this become important reference points for studying minting consistency, error frequency, and production quality across decades. Collectors often build what are called error type sets, where they assemble examples of different minting mistakes from the same denomination and era. In that context, a 2000D dime with a clear broadstrike, a clipped planchet, or an off-center strike becomes more valuable as part of a thematic collection than as a standalone investment piece. Its worth is not just financial, but educational and historical. In circulation, however, the story is much simpler. A standard 2000D Roosevelt dime still functions exactly as intended. It buys 10 cents worth of goods. It passes through vending machines. It circulates without recognition. The vast majority will never be examined closely enough to reveal anything unusual. And that is precisely why discoveries still happen. Every so often, someone does find something unusual. A coin that looks slightly different. A rim that seems off. A design that appears shifted. Most of these turn out to be minor or non-valuable issues, but occasionally a genuine mint error is identified. Those moments are what keep interest alive in modern coin hunting. The mint mark itself, the small d beneath the date, continues to be a point of curiosity for new collectors. Some mistakenly believe that different positions or appearances of the mint mark create value differences. In reality, for this coin era, the mint mark is standardized as part of the die design process. There are no widely recognized valuable mint mark errors for the 2000D dime in the sense of dramatic variation. What collectors instead look for are errors affecting the entire strike process, not the mint mark alone.
As the coin ages further into the future, its role will likely shift even more toward collectible study rather than circulation currency. Coins from the early 2000s are gradually leaving active use as newer coinage dominates everyday transactions. This means fewer high-quality uncirculated examples will survive in pristine condition over time. While that does not suddenly make the coin rare, it does slowly change its collector landscape. The emotional appeal of coins like the 2000 Roosevelt dime is not in extreme rarity but in possibility. The possibility that something overlooked might still exist in plain sight. The possibility that a small minting mistake could transform an ordinary object into a collectible piece of production history. That sense of possibility is what keeps collectors searching through rolls, pocket change, and old jars even today. But the final truth remains grounded. The 2000 Roosevelt dime is fundamentally a common coin. Its face value defines its everyday worth. Only in specific, clearly identifiable, and verifiable mint error cases does it rise above that baseline. And even then, its value increase is measured, not extreme. What makes it fascinating is not the promise of hidden wealth, but the story it tells about how modern money is made. It is a reminder that even in a world of advanced machinery and precision engineering, small imperfections still occur. And those imperfections, when preserved and understood, become part of the living history of coinage. In the end, the 2000 Roosevelt dime is not just about value in dollars. It is about understanding production, recognizing variation, and appreciating how something so common can still hold small traces of unpredictability. And that is what keeps it alive in the eyes of collectors, long after most people have stopped noticing it at all. When collectors move beyond basic identification and begin studying real market behavior, the story of the 2003 Roosevelt dime becomes even more interesting because value is never random in numismatics. It follows patterns shaped by demand, visibility, and verified scarcity, not internet rumors or assumptions. And in that real market environment, each type of minting anomaly carries a different level of importance. For example, a minor die crack on a 2003 Roosevelt dime, which appears as a thin raised line across the surface, is one of the most common forms of minting deterioration. These typically come from aging dies used under high production pressure at facilities like the Denver Mint. In most cases, such coins sell for only a small premium, often between $1 and $5 depending on how dramatic the crack is and whether it intersects with major design elements. The more visually striking the crack, especially if it runs through Roosevelt's portrait or the torch on the reverse, the more attention it receives from entry-level collectors. But when we move into stronger categories such as off-center strikes, the market behavior changes significantly. A 2003 dime struck 5 to 10% off-center, especially with full date and mint mark visible, may trade in the range of $5 to $25 depending on eye appeal. If the strike is more dramatic, around 20 to 40% off-center, the value can increase into the $50 range or higher, particularly if the coin still maintains strong detail and has not been heavily circulated. These coins are visually dramatic, and that visual distortion is what creates demand. Clipped planchet errors fall into a similar but slightly more stable pricing structure. A minor curved clip on a 2003 Roosevelt dime might sell for $5 to $15 in most collector markets. However, larger or multiple clips, especially those that are clearly defined and not confused with post-mint damage, can reach $20 to $40 depending on condition. The key factor is natural mint origin. Collectors pay attention to the smooth, rounded absence of metal that proves the blank was improperly punched before striking. Broad strike errors tend to be slightly more desirable because they are less common in high-quality preserved form. A standard broad-struck 2003 dime typically ranges from $10 to $30, but unusually strong examples with full design visibility and strong expansion can reach higher, sometimes $50 or more. The appeal comes from the clear demonstration of mechanical failure, where the retaining collar did not function as intended, allowing the coin to expand beyond its normal diameter. When discussing die deterioration errors, the value is more modest. These coins are abundant in large populations, and most examples are only worth a few dollars at best. However, when die deterioration combines with other features such as high mint state condition or unusual strike characteristics, collectors may assign slightly higher premiums. Still, these are considered educational or minor collectible pieces rather than major value coins.
True doubled die errors, although not widely confirmed as major varieties for the 2003 P. Roosevelt dime in significant numbers, would represent the highest potential value category if discovered in strong form. A confirmed and clearly visible doubled die obverse or reverse could potentially reach into the hundreds of dollars or more depending on severity, demand, and third-party grading authentication. However, it is important to emphasize that most doubling seen on this issue is not true hub doubling but rather machine or die-related distortion, which does not carry the same value. Now, when all of this is placed into perspective, the overall market reality becomes very clear. The 2003 P. Roosevelt dime is not a rare coin in general circulation. It is one of the most common modern coins still found in pocket change today. Its base value remains 10 cents, and no amount of speculation changes that fact. But within that massive production volume lies a very small percentage of coins that carry unintended uniqueness. This is where collector psychology becomes just as important as minting science. People are naturally drawn to irregularity. A perfectly normal coin blends into everyday life, but a coin that looks different immediately captures attention. That visual difference creates curiosity, and curiosity creates demand. Even when the actual monetary value is modest, the perceived uniqueness drives collecting behavior. The Denver Mint in 2003 was operating in a highly optimized production environment. Millions of coins were struck daily using automated feeding systems, precision engraved dies, and controlled pressure striking mechanisms. However, even the most advanced systems cannot eliminate all variation. Dies wear gradually, mechanical timing shifts slightly, and planchets occasionally feed imperfectly into striking chambers. Each of these micro-variations can result in coins that deviate from standard production. From a historical lens, the 2003 P. Roosevelt dime represents the modern industrial phase of United States coinage. It is not defined by scarcity in metal content or limited mintage, but by its role in everyday commerce during a fully digitalizing economy. As cash usage slowly declines in modern society, coins like this become time capsules of a transitional financial era. Collectors who study these coins years later are not just looking for value. They are documenting production behavior. A clipped planchet tells a story about blanking errors. A broad strike reveals collar malfunction. An off-center strike shows alignment failure. Each coin becomes a physical record of mechanical imperfection in a system designed for consistency. Over time, the availability of high-quality error coins in circulation tends to decrease, not because fewer are produced, but because more are identified and removed from circulation by collectors. This creates a slow shift where error coins become harder to find in everyday change, increasing their desirability in collector circles. Still, realism remains essential. The majority of people who check their change will never find a significant error coin. And even those who do are more likely to find minor varieties rather than high-value rarities. The idea that every 2003 P dime contains hidden wealth is simply incorrect. The truth is far more balanced and grounded in statistical probability. Yet the possibility, however small, is what keeps interest alive. Because somewhere in circulation, there may still exist a 2003 P Roosevelt dime that was struck slightly off-center, or one that escaped quality control with a clear clipped edge, or one that shows unusual strike characteristics that were never documented in detail. These coins are not mythical. They are simply rare within a massive production system. And that is why this coin continues to attract attention from collectors, beginners, and casual observers alike. It exists at the intersection of familiarity and possibility. You can find it anywhere, yet it still holds the potential, in rare cases, to surprise you. In the end, the real value of the 2003 P Roosevelt dime is not defined only in dollars. It is defined in what it represents: modern minting precision, occasional mechanical imperfection, and the ongoing human fascination with finding uniqueness in the ordinary. And that is why even something as small as a 10-cent coin can still carry a story worth telling.